Out of the gates and ready to go. Seahawks Today live here on this Wednesday afternoon. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. We are with you a little bit earlier than normal, about 90 minutes earlier today. You may be asking why. Well, here at the Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas, we've had a bit of an ice storm the last couple of days, and more weather is upon our way, and so we're trying to get out of here a little bit earlier today so we can make sure we're not driving home in the ice and dark and all that later tonight. So that's why we're here with you a little bit earlier than normal. We understand if you can't be here live today, if it's still lunchtime, you're at work, whatever it may be, check out the replay later on, which will be available here on YouTube. But our normal time, of course, on Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific here on the channel. I see Dustin's checking in. What's up, Tyler? Dustin, good to see you, man. Mr. Biggs in the house as well. Sam also here. Shout out your city where you guys are watching from and where you're at today, and we'll make sure to get you on the show. Who should Seattle draft with the number 5 and number 20 overall selections? One guy we're going to talk about today at length is Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. Pro Football Focus is projecting the Seahawks pick him with the 20th selection. So we'll see if the Seahawks go that route and ultimately add up Joey Porter Jr. Of course, he is the son of the former All-Pro linebacker Joey Porter, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers for much of his career. So we'll check in on that, tell you what you need to know there. Also going to talk some free agent targets today, in particular on the defensive side. We know the Seahawks need a lot of help on that defense. So we'll dive into all that and more. I see Mr. Biggs checking in from Ohio. Vasquez checking in from Texas. Dustin in Washington. Bert says Murphy or Tyree. Jose says, I say we sign Daron Payne in free agency. The guy's a beast, 11.5 sacks this season. Dustin wants an edge rusher or a cornerback. So how about that? Super Bowl coming up in a little less than 2 weeks from now between the Chiefs and the Eagles. Let us know who you got in that game, Chiefs or Eagles. And Jeremy Chuggs is holding things down back on behind the scenes today. He was still working on the show, but he's not on camera today with us. Nicholas Roloff is in the house. Rolly is here today. And Rolly, appreciate you being here, man. What do you think about the Super Bowl matchup, Chiefs and Eagles?
Well, I love to be here on Seahawks Today, as always.
Always a good time.
It's tough, man. Obviously, the quarterbacks usually decide who wins the big games, so you would lean the Chiefs, but the roster for Philadelphia is so good. I think Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, going to be a menace. Javon Hargrave, going to be a menace for that Chiefs O-line. Have Mahomes run scrambling for his life. He's going to be healthy. Not 100% healthy, though. I think I'd lean Eagles just because they're going to win the trenches battle on both sides. So,
chat so far looks like is leaning towards Eagles. I see Max, Miles, Vasquez, Dustin all going with the Eagles. Mark Sanchez checking in the house. Mark, thanks for being here with us on this early time today. Mark says that the Seahawks need to draft Miles Murphy and Osiris, the offensive guard, with their 2 selections. Stu says if a QB and Jalen Carter or Will Anderson are still on the board at 5, would you support taking a QB at 5 and trading into 6 to get our defensive guy? Stu, great question. Use hashtag Seahawks, and we will answer those questions in the mailbag, or you can super chat to get on the mailbag. We'll do 2 mailbag segments today. We'll have those coming up later. Use hashtag Seahawks or super chat to get on the mailbag. Who do you got, Chiefs or Eagles? I see Jose says Eagles. Everybody in the chat going with Philadelphia, it seems, at this point in time. Rolly likes Philly. I lean towards Philly as well, but I says we need D-line. Yeah, you're not wrong about that. I got a couple of potential options for the Seahawks and the defensive line we'll discuss later. Rolly, in case people don't know, you are a massive Patriots fan, lifelong Patriots fan, and today we got the news that Tom Brady is retiring from the National Football League. He says this is for real this time, and he's done. So I want everybody in the chat, whether you love Tom Brady or hate Tom Brady, just give me one word to describe the Tom Brady retirement news. Rolly, I'll start with you. What was your reaction to this morning of the news that Brady was going to retire?
Sad. That's my one word, because you laid it out. I am a diehard Patriots fan, so he's my favorite player of all time, clearly. Like people say for LeBron James in the NBA, I don't want to live in a world, because my entire life he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
And this next year, if he doesn't pull another unretirement, will be the first year of my lifetime that he will not be quarterbacking a team in the National Football League. So that is very sad to me. I don't want to see that day. The day is obviously upon us. I'll also say this. I did think that he was going to play one more year, but I'm not surprised he retired. I mean, it got ugly in Tampa this past season. It was pretty clear that he didn't gel with some of the other teammates. I mean, I don't know. You just see those behind-the-scene clips of, like, them talking on the sideline.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the Bucs were disinterested.
Yeah.
Brady was trying to fire him up. Nothing was working. So I'm sad to see him go on a team that struggled. Worst, maybe, team of his career, record-wise at least.
Right. Well, and I looked at what Tom Brady did this past year. Obviously, he had taken a step back. That he wasn't the same Tom Brady. He still was decent, but he wasn't necessarily good or great this year. Granted, their offensive line and their run game was just trash this season, but I didn't want to see him try to go play for the Raiders or something like that. It felt like it was time for Tom to move on. He moves to the Fox Sports broadcast booth. The one-word reaction, I see Mr. Biggs says unbelievable. Jose says legacy. Vasquez says GOAT. That's a good one-word choice. Scotty, thumbs down. Mark says respect. Max says finally. Scotty says boo Tom Brady. Yeah, there's some boos in there. I'm sure there's some hurt feelings from Super Bowl 49, and understandably so. Rolly, as the resident Patriot fan here, not to put salt in the wound.
Oh, boy.
Seahawk fans, don't jump on Rolly too much here, but tell me real quick, do you remember where you were at, what your setting was for that Super Bowl?
Oh, 49? Oh, geez, I could tell you like the back of my hand, man. Here, ready? So my brother was a Seahawks fan at the time.
Okay.
And I was a Patriots fan. So split household. I went into the basement. He was upstairs. I watched with my dad. He watched with my mom. So we had a split household watching, because I knew we couldn't watch it together. Because
Sure.
the moment he said something, I wanted to fight him. I said something, he was going to want to fight me. So we had to split up. And it was a great game, obviously. And they take the lead. I'm pumped. And then the Seahawks are marching down the field. And then the Jermaine Kearse catch happens down the sideline. And I just immediately put my head down and just start becoming depressed. Because I'm like, they're going to punch it in here. They're at the 10-yard line. This is the worst. Why did they have to make a crazy catch like this and hurt me again in the Super Bowl? And obviously, Malcolm Butler happened. I jump up and down. I go crazy. But that was my Super Bowl experience. Split household in the basement, jumping up and down with my dad.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! I didn't know that your brother was a Seahawk fan. That's quite the story. Ronald sent in a super chat. We haven't got to the super chat menu today. We'll show that here in just a second. I'll say this: we're going to be going through a quick pace today because we're trying to get out of here. But we'll never say no to super chats. I can tell you that much right now. Ronald, thanks for the $2 super chat. Usually those, the $2 is you can ask us anything. So Ronald, if you got a question that you want to ask, doesn't even have to be football related, whatever it may be. Me and Rolly will answer that question. $2, you can ask us anything as far as that goes. Any super chat shout out, $5, we'll sing the DK song. We can make the Patriot fan Rolly sing the DK song. He doesn't know it yet, but we can teach it to him. $10 will take a shot, $150 will take down a boot. And we got a new boot now. I have two members. Mark Sanchez and Ashley are our first two inductees to the new boot. $100 gets you a spot in the Boot Hall of Fame. And would love to add some more people today, potentially, to do so. So that is what's on tap. Got two mailbags coming up. Use the hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbags, and we'll be ready to go. So, Rolly, anything else? We all squared away to get started with our first segment here?
Yeah.
All right.
You guys better like the video to get it started, though.
Like the video. We're at 7 likes right now. I have a grand total of 23 people watching right now. Go ahead and hit that like button, and let's have ourselves a good day today. I know it's early. I know most of you are probably still at work, and we understand. We had to come on a little bit early. I know it's not the best way to do this sometimes, but, you know, we'll make it work today, and we'll go back to our normal schedule next week. But go ahead and hit that like button, and we'll get started with Seahawks Today live here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for spending it with us. Here we go. It is Seahawks Today, and it is powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, we have the latest Seattle Seahawks news and rumors as we're going to be talking about Pro Football Focus, their latest mock draft, who they have the Seahawks taking at the 20th spot. We'll tell you who that is and dive into all of that and more. Also, an update on Geno Smith and his contract situation. Where does that all unfold as far as Geno Smith stacking up among some of the other free agents across the National Football League? We'll tell you about all of that and more coming up in just a few moments. Folks, thank you for helping us reach 34.5 thousand subscribers on the channel. We are growing rapidly, and it is my honor to do this show each and every day, to be talking about the Seattle Seahawks. But I want more of the 12s here. I want us to be representing even louder than we typically are. Let's get on up to 35K. What's holding us back from getting there? Let's do our part, get to 35,000 subscribers here on the channel. Subscribe now. Make sure all your fellow Seahawk fans are also subscribed as well. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Subscribe for free today. Joey Porter Jr. of Penn State, the defensive back, is who Pro Football Focus is projecting the Seahawks pick at the 20th selection. Now, the 5th selection, Pro Football Focus has the Seahawks going with Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. We've talked about him on this show, but today we want to focus specifically on Joey Porter Jr. and what he could potentially bring to Seattle with that 20th pick. Here's what PFF said. Defensive line and cornerback feel like the two areas the Seahawks are going to want to hit early in the 2023 NFL Draft. With them selecting Wilson at number 5 earlier in the mock, I have them looking at cornerback here. Tariq Woolen was a steal of a pick last year, earning an 81.4 coverage grade and tying the league high in interceptions, 6 in 2022. Woolen measures in at 6'4", 205 pounds, and putting the 6'2", 205-pound Porter on the other side would create quite the nightmare matchup for opposing defenses. And I got to tell you, folks, when you look at that, this secondary would just be absolutely insane if you added Joey Porter Jr. to the fold compared to what you already have. You heard him mention Tariq Woolen there. But think about this. Kobe Bryant, as much as was made about Tariq Woolen's outstanding rookie year where he was a Pro Bowler, Kobe Bryant still had a really good rookie year. It was just kind of overshadowed by Tariq Woolen. And you bring back Kobe Bryant. Mike Jackson, he'll be a free agent. You got some other guys that are free agents. And not to mention your situation with the safety spots with the guys like Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams and company there. I got to tell you, to me, this would be lethal if you already have a secondary room that's promising, that has a lot of potential as is. And then you potentially add a guy like Joey Porter Jr., who I might add has some pretty good pedigree as well. This would be quite the secondary the Seahawks could potentially have here if they go with Joey Porter Jr. with this selection at number 20. I'll tell you more specifically about Joey Porter Jr. here in just a second, but let's have you chime in here in the comments section. Before we dive into the details about JPJ, is that what we're calling him? Let me know in the comments section if you want to see him in Seattle with that 20th pick. We're not talking about at 5, but at 20, what do you think about the idea of bringing in JPJ? Type D for draft, type P for pass, and on the other side, we'll tell you more about Joey Porter Jr. So, Joey Porter Jr., here is the resume for the Penn State cornerback. He was first team All Big Ten in 2022. He is the son of the two-time first-team All-Pro former linebacker Joey Porter, who, of course, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and had an outstanding career and has gone on to coaching. And according to ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr., you're looking at Joey Porter Jr. being a guy that is the 14th overall player on Mel's big board, which, I mean, just pure numbers-wise, if you're picking at 20 and get Joey Porter Jr. at 14, that's good math on your end, and the number 2 cornerback overall in this draft. The numbers for Joey Porter Jr. in his career, 34 games played, and for a cornerback, pretty decent number of tackles, 113 to be exact. 2 tackles for loss, 20 pass breakups, and 1 interception for Joey Porter Jr. there. And the nerd numbers from Pro Football Focus, the grades they give out, not bad either. Overall grade at 73.2, coverage grade at 77.4, and a run D grade at 53.2, as well as a tackling grade at 57.7. So you can see these numbers, what we're talking about with Joey Porter Jr. here, pretty solid. And to me, it's the fact that, you know, not only just the good pedigree, you're not just drafting a name here in Joey Porter Jr. potentially, but the value of, hey, this is a guy that's a top, 12, 15 talent according to Mel, and the number 2 corner, and you already have a pretty young, good core in your secondary. Add another piece. To me, this would be very interesting if the Seahawks go this direction, and I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm open to this idea. What say you? Name a player the Seahawks should draft this year, besides just Joey Porter Jr. or somebody out there that comes to mind overall in this draft. Give me one player you think the Seahawks should consider here in the 2023 draft that comes to mind for this Seattle Seahawks team. Today's show is sponsored by Fume. We all have bad habits, and we currently know how hard they can be to kick those habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful and really hits the back of the throat. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors for you to enjoy: maple pepper, crisp mint, and white cranberry. Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports. Use code CHATSPORTS to save an additional 10% off your order today. I tried the maple pepper today. I got to tell you, I was a fan. Had some good flavor, some good taste to it as far as that goes with Fume. So you can be like me and try it out for yourself at tryfume.com/chatsports. Use that promo code CHATSPORTS to save an additional 10%. All right, a couple more notes, some housekeeping things before we go. Let's start with Geno Smith. And Geno, I think most people might not realize this, is going to be a highly sought-after free agent beyond just in Seattle, but really with a lot of teams looking for a quarterback. According to ESPN's NFL free agent rankings, Geno Smith is in the top 5, not just for quarterbacks, but among all free agents available here this offseason. Here's what Matt Brown said. Smith led the NFL in completion percentage, a nice number at 69.8 this season, and his QBR, 60.9, ranked 6th among all quarterbacks. It's a big jump from the 58.8% completion rate and 43.6 QBR. He posted over 46 games prior to this season. There's no denying that Smith played extremely efficient football this season, seeing it fast from the pocket, and those traits travel well in any passing scheme. Smith finished the season with 4,282 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. If he doesn't return to Seattle, he could be targeted to start elsewhere. So here's a few things that are interesting about Geno Smith and his situation going into this offseason. According to Spotrac and just kind of looking at some of the numbers around, the market value for Geno Smith is around $35 to $40 million. The longer this goes out, if you let him go to free agency unsigned, the more expensive this is going to be. And there's so many teams desperate for quarterbacks that market price, that market value is only going to go up. He is 32 years old. He's had one impressive season to this point, but for some teams, that is going to be enough to be interested in Geno Smith. So the longer you let this thing play out and not have a deal for Geno Smith potentially, there could be more interest from other teams. Remember, the Seahawks haven't ruled out the franchise tag either as far as that goes. So something to think about there. So 32 years old with one impressive season. And then the other factor that is the elephant in the room of some sorts with this Geno Smith situation is you hold the 2 picks at 5 and 20. And until draft night, we are not going to know what direction Seattle's thinking at that quarterback position. Even if you pay Geno Smith, is he your long-term answer where you don't draft at those other 2 positions? Or do you not pay Geno Smith and you go all in with trying to draft at one of those 2 spots? That's a whole other factor in all this too. So a lot to play out, a lot to unfold here as far as Geno Smith's future goes in Seattle. We've heard John Schneider and Pete Carroll say all the right things. They want him back, but let's see what really goes down if they can make it happen and if they're possibly willing to pay up to $40 million. That remains to be seen. What's your confidence level in Geno Smith coming back next year? Scale it for me 1 through 10 in the comments section, how confident you are that Geno Smith is going to be back in 2023. Let us know. Scale 1 through 10 in the comments section below. Finally, last note before we wrap up here on today's edition of Seahawks Today. Seahawks quarterback coach Dave Canales, who has been on the Seahawks staff for a very long time in a number of roles. He got a second interview with the Baltimore Ravens with John Harbaugh for their offensive coordinator position. They're replacing Greg Roman in Baltimore, and seems like Dave is one of the favorites to potentially land that job. He is a candidate for that. We've talked about Sean Desai. There's some interest in him on the defensive side with some other teams. So we'll keep tabs on that and see if that leads to potential coaching staff changes for your Seattle Seahawks. Here on the channel, we'll be the first to let you know. As always, you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. And would love to hear from you guys there. I'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today. All right, that's one segment down. Mark Sanchez weighs in with a $2 super chat. What do you think of Wayne Tulalapapa, the running back from Washington? And I got to tell you, there's been so much made, Rolly, about Michael Penix, who ultimately decided to come back and stay at Washington. I think people have forgotten about Wayne, potentially, of what he could bring to the table. I know Seahawks fans are, very familiar with him, but you're talking about a guy there with the Washington Huskies who this past season had close to 900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6.3 average, a lot of yards per carry with Wayne here. 5'11", 206, good size. Seems like all that matches up with some sorts of what you could potentially be looking for in another 2 or 3 running back if you're Seattle here.
Yeah, my question is to the Seahawks fans out there. Do they believe they need another running back to pair up with Kenneth Walker? Is that like a need that people are going to want the Seahawks to target late in this year's draft?
I think that the Seahawks will be bringing in a number 2 running back because, and we'll talk about this here in just a second, I don't think Rashad Penny's back next year. I think that they're not going to re-sign him. They're going to let him walk with the injury issues. And, you had some flashes from Travis Homer and DJ Dallas at times, but they could never find that consistency of a number 2 back. I would expect a later pick, like a day 3 selection for the Seahawks to be the number 2 running back potentially for this team next year. I think it is a need. It's not your highest priority by any means, but you will need to draft a running back if you're the Seahawks. And, I mean, you think about this, Rolly, the Seahawks have had such bad luck when it comes to the running back position over, the last calendar year. Chris Carson, Rashad Penny we mentioned. Kenneth Walker was out for a while as well. I mean, we saw Travis Homer deal with injuries. DJ Dallas even got hurt. I mean, it's been brutal what they've been dealt with when it comes injury-wise at the running back position. You could never have too many running backs as far as I'm concerned.
Beast Mode asks a nice question. Put hashtag Seahawks for the upcoming mailbag. I will throw that on screen so you know what it should look like. But he asked, maybe we'll get into it if you put it on there, but Kenny McIntosh, running back from Georgia in the 5th round. Wouldn't be bad.
He wore out TCU.
Yeah. Well, I mean, TCU got worn out by everyone.
By everyone, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Tyler, you and I, put us at fullback and tight end. We might be able to make something happen.
We might have had a touchdown that game.
Might have been able to reach pay dirt.
Right? Might have done a little of this, a little of that, something like that. Oh, my gosh. That was a brutal national championship game. Hopefully the Super Bowl is not like what we saw the college football national championship. I know we got more people watching. Our audience has doubled here within the last 10, 15 minutes. So we'll get to the mailbag here in just a second. Use hashtag Seahawks to get your mailbag questions in, or you can super chat. I see Reflect the Sun is in the house. Reflect the Sun. Good to see you. I know it's been a while, my friend. Welcome back to the show. Others here. Since we're on a little bit earlier, I'm seeing people that we don't always see in the chat. So I'm glad that we could see you guys, have you back here with this earlier start time today. Next week we'll go back to our normal start time of 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Okay, good question from Mark coming in.
We'll put that
in the mailbag.
On the mailbag. But we do need more questions. So make sure to use hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat because we have 2 mailbags planned today. But as things currently stand, I don't know if we can make another. So get those questions in.
We need some more questions. Like we mentioned, smaller audience today because we're on a little bit earlier. So use that hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get your questions on the mailbag. Easy enough. Like, I'm seeing the chats rolling. But use that hashtag Seahawks and we'll get you taken care of. Let's show that Super Chat menu because I know we're getting some Super Chats in. So I want to show people what they're essentially buying at this point. Any Super Chat equals a shout out. $2, you can ask me or Rolly anything. Doesn't have to be football related. We can talk food or music. I don't care. $5 will sing the DK song. It looks like I got to pay it off twice here with a couple more Super Chats coming in.
Yeah.
$10 will take a shot. I do have the Fireball in hand ready to go. That's cinnamon whiskey, America's finest. And every $150 we take down a boot. We are $16 in, so we're still ways away from getting 2 dots boot. We do have a new boot, by the way. Would love to induct some new members on this boot. Reflect the Sun, Nicholas Newton. Let's see, who else is here today? Scott Adams, Mr. Biggs. Who wants to be on the new Seahawks boot? $100 gets you a spot on the Seahawks boot. Would love to make that happen.
Nicholas Newton, great question. Put hashtag Seahawks on
Nicholas Newton, hashtag Seahawks, my guy.
We'd love to talk about it, but we can't get it on the show unless you use that hashtag. It's how software works.
We'll take care of it.
Mark Sanchez.
Mark wants to take a couple shots. I think it's only fair that Rolly, the Patriots fan, who told us all about his memory of Super Bowl 49, takes one of these. So I'll get one up ready for Rolly, and I'll take the other.
Yeah, I'll have to go grab a shot glass.
Oh, I have one for you.
Oh, you have one for me? Oh, perfect.
I always come prepared. Yes. Yes, indeed. Let's see. I like this from Mark. Let's warm up a bit. 2 shots. I agree. 2 shots. Let's have ourselves a day today, Seahawk fans, and we'll get to our mailbag here in just a second. There's a shot for Rolly. And we'll get to our next segment here in just a second. Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag. Also, we got to sing the DK song twice, courtesy of MJ Seahawk and Reflect the Sun. We'll show those here in just a second. And we'll sing it back to back, because why not? All right, Rolly, cheers. We'll get him on screen here in just a sec. And we'll salute together. Reflect the Sun. I'm seeing some good comments there. Use hashtag Seahawks. We'll get on the mailbag. To Mark Sanchez, the GOAT himself, hope you're having a great day, my friend. Thanks for being here with us. All right. So now the other ones. Reflect the Sun and MJ Seahawk. I will sing the DK song back to back because we can. So here we go. A 1, 2, 3. Chopping carols, chomping Geno passes. No one stopping DK. Touchdowns all day. He rules. Rolly, I know you've heard the
I've
DK
heard it.
song.
I'm terrible musically, though. I think I would need to hear it again, and then maybe I can get it down.
Okay, let's sing together the next one.
Oh, this is going to be – we got to go slow.
All right, we'll go slow at this and then see.
I don't remember. Do you got the words somewhere?
On my desk somewhere. But you're just going to have to memorize it along the way.
Wait, so what does it go? Come on. Show me one more.
Chomping, carols chomping, Geno passes, no one stopping DK, touchdowns all day. He rules.
All right, you do it again, and then next time we get a $5, hopefully I can chime in.
Okay, so I'll do it one more time, and then the next $5 super chat, Rolly the Patriots fan, will sing it himself. So here we go. Chomping carols, chomping Geno passes, no one stopping DK, touchdowns all day. He rules. There we go. Mr. Big says Burger King. Yeah.
We got enough questions now, so let's ride.
All right, I'm not a big BK fan myself, but you know what? It's a catchy as hell jingle, and I feel like it's the song of the NFL playoffs at this point. There we go. Reflect the Sun's got it. Got it figured out. All right, mailbag time. Hashtag Seahawks Super Chat to get on the mailbag. I guess in the chat it's pretty interesting. Somebody's trying to claim that they're related to DK Metcalf. Mr. Big says that DK's his dad. Don't know if that's true, but nonetheless, it's interesting. So cheers, and we'll do our mailbag. Let me pull up my script here. Give me 1 second, and I'm good. All right, Rolly, let's do it. It is mailbag time here on Seahawks Today. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. You may be wondering, how do I get involved in these mailbag shows? Well, we do them each and every week during our live shows here on the channel, which occur on Wednesdays. And if you use the hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat, you can get on the mailbag show. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Never miss a moment. You'll be glad you did. And let's go ahead and get started with our mailbag questions. From the one and only Mark Sanchez, the GOAT himself, checking in, asking about Wayne the Great, the running back from the University of Wisconsin. From the University of Washington, rather. See, the UW, there's two UWs. Let's tell you about Wayne here. His numbers last season had 140 carries, 887 yards, 11 touchdowns, and averaged 6.3 yards per carry. Size-wise, at 5'11", 206, I mean, this guy is what you're looking for in that number 2 or number 3 running back potentially. We know this Seahawks team needs to add another running back to complement Kenneth Walker. That Kenneth Walker's your guy. You should draft a running back, but it's not a high priority. It's not something that you probably should even take care of day 1 or day 2. But day 3, yeah, I'm open to it. I don't know where Wayne's going to go necessarily, but certainly he could be a good fit for the Seahawks to be that number 2 back potentially. Another one from Mark. Mark wants to know, smoke, barbecue, or pizza with wings for the Super Bowl. So no free ads, but last year for Super Bowl Sunday, I went with Panda Express. And Panda was a very good Super Bowl Sunday party menu item. I could not go wrong with Panda Express. Panda Express has never let me down in my life. With that said, barbecue or pizza with wings, as somebody that spent a great number of years in the Kansas City area and now lives in Dallas, the answer is barbecue. I love barbecue. I think I could eat barbecue every day of the week Producer Roley doesn't know what good barbecue is yet, but we will teach him. We'll make sure he knows what good barbecue is. I mean, like, here's the deal, Mark and the others out there. I mean, get you some barbecue to enjoy Super Bowl Sunday. Have your friends over. Have a couple cold beers on hand ready to go. And get on with your bad self and enjoy the Super Bowl. Got to have some barbecue pizza. You can have any day of the week. Barbecue, it just hits different. MJ Seahawks says, thank you, Tyler, for all your content. Who is your guy on day 2 for nose tackle or defensive line? Well, MJ Seahawk, thank you for the question as far as that goes. And we always love bringing you guys Seahawks content each and every day here on the channel. MJ Hawk, it is my pleasure to be able to bring you what we do each and every day here on the channel and our entire staff. It's awesome what we do. The guys behind the scenes make it all happen. As far as the answer goes for looking at day 2, guys, I think what's interesting is for Seattle, you're in a position where you might hope for a guy to slip and take advantage of your 2 picks that you have in the second round, and maybe you trade up. I know we've talked about like Brian Breesy, for example, from Clemson, who's expected to be a first-round pick, but there's some mocks out there that have him going at 30 or 31. Well, if he's still around and still available there at the beginning of the first round, that's a guy potentially I could package my 2 second-round picks and move up for to make sure I get. To me, that's an idea potentially. I'm looking at guys that are first-round grades but could still be around for those 2 picks as far as I'm concerned. But it's a good question. We'll just see who's ultimately available for those guys there. Adam says, the Niners have had a few good QBs and needed all of them this year. Should the Seahawks bring in another QB even if they re-sign Geno? It's a very interesting idea, Adam, and you're absolutely right about that. You look at what the Niners went through to get to the NFC Championship game, and it may have been a whole different game. I'm not saying they would have beat the Eagles, but they at least would have had a fighting chance had Brock Purdy played in that entire game. Okay? And you look at that team. Trey Lance goes down, and Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. Brock Purdy goes down in the NFC Championship game. Josh Johnson was not worth anything. I don't know why he's in the National Football League. With that said, the Niners needed every one of those quarterbacks, and you can't have too many good quarterbacks. So I would say, yes, you should draft a quarterback or bring in a veteran, whatever it may be, besides just Geno Smith. And I'm not saying it has to be even a first-round quarterback, but somewhere down the line, somewhere maybe even day 3 or late in day 3, you should find a quarterback. Think about the New England Patriots. And I know that producer Roley is going to like me bringing this up. What has Bill Belichick done so well over the years? One of the many things Belichick's done well is you could point to that even when Tom Brady was in his prime, they were still drafting quarterbacks and they were getting stuff out of them. I mean, Matt Castle is out of the league, and the Chiefs gave up the farm to get Matt Castle. I mean, think about some of the other guys that they've been through over the years. To me, you can't have enough good quarterbacks. So, yeah, I would be very interested to draft a quarterback in addition to re-signing Geno. What do you think? Add another QB along with Geno Smith this offseason. It's not as crazy as you may think. Type Y for yes. Type in for no. Let me know in the comment section. You want to add another QB along with Geno in the offseason? Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Robbie Red writes, thoughts on the Sean Payton trade of Denver? Well, that's a very interesting situation. Old friend, Russell Wilson, of course, there in Denver. And you guys may not know this, but I spent some time talking about the NFL as a whole on our main chat sports channel on NFL Daily. And when we were talking about the Broncos coaching search and everything that was going on there, the thing I looked at was, I think Russell Wilson is cooked personally, but if there's one guy that could potentially salvage or save Russ's career, that guy is Sean Payton. And Sean Payton, I think, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. He's a very good coach in this league. But with that said, they did give up a lot for him. Think about it this way. If you're placing a bet, and the Broncos this past year, they just lost a lot in their bet in that Russell Wilson trade. Now what they've done is they're doubling down their bet in the Russell Wilson trade. And they're going all in even further. This could fail miserably. This could go well. But they're hedging their bets here. They're going all in this case. So it's a good hire, but it's a ballsy move. We'll put it that way as far as what Denver's doing to get Russell Wilson that help there. Today's episode of Seahawks Today is sponsored by Fume. We all have bad habits, and we certainly know how hard they can be to kick those bad habits. Our sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. I didn't expect much out of Fume when I got it, but the minty sensation is really powerful and really hits the back of the throat. Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors for you to enjoy: maple pepper, crisp mint, and white cranberry. Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. Head to tryfume.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS to save an additional 10% off of your order today. The 3 unique flavors, I've tried a couple of them. I got to tell you, this thing is pretty good. So go ahead and get yours now. Tell them we sent you, and you'll be glad you did. Back to the mailbag we go. Beast Mode 42701 writes, Miles or Tyree? What he's referring to is Miles Murphy out of Clemson, or Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech. And this seems to be, if the draft goes chalk and the Seahawks stay at 5, this is probably the decision they have to make. I like Miles Murphy better than I do Tyree Wilson. I'm not saying there's a wrong answer here either. That's just my personal preference. I think if you go with one of those two, then you're fine. You're feeling pretty good about where you stacked up. I don't think there is a wrong answer definitively one way or the other. But personally, I like Miles Murphy a little bit more than I do Tyree Wilson, but they're both going to be potential to be really good football players in the league. JVB writes, if the Seahawks still had the 5th pick in the draft and C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young were already picked and you can only pick Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, who would you pick? Neither. My answer would be hell no. I don't want either one of those guys. Anthony Richardson's not a very accurate passer. Less than 53% completion percentage? That's not an NFL quarterback. No thanks. And I know Nicholas Newton's been on my ass asking me, why don't you like Anthony Richardson? Have you looked at his completion percentage? That's why. Will Levis, underperformed. He did not live up to expectations this year at the University of Kentucky. And to me, I think there is work to be done when it comes to Will Levis. There's potential there, but he's very raw. So if that's the hand you're dealing me, no thanks. If Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud are there, now we're talking. That could potentially work. But Levis or Richardson, no thanks. Temperer writes, any chance the Seahawks bring back Rashad Penny? Slim chance. There is a chance. So you're saying there's a chance? Yes, slim, but unlikely. I think that Rashad Penny, the Seahawks, gave him kind of the last-minute chance last year to prove himself. And although he was good before he got hurt, I don't think the Seahawks want to get bitten by that bullet again and be hurt by a Rashad Penny injury as far as that goes. So, Rashad, no one questions his talent. We all know he's good. but the guy can't seem to stay healthy. So that's the issue when it comes to Rashad Penny there. So slim chance, it'd have to be a cheap contract, but I don't think it's happening more than likely. Should Seattle re-sign Rashad Penny? Is that something they should do? If you think they should, type S for sign. If you don't think they should, type P for pass. Let me know in the comments section. Should Seattle re-sign Rashad Penny or not? S for sign, P for pass. Good time for a few more questions here. Let's go to Kevin now, who writes, what's a wide receiver you would like to see Seattle draft? So the 5 pick is more than likely going to be a defensive player. If Seattle stays at 5, potentially could trade down to 7 or 8 or 9, somewhere around that range. But I think Seattle's going to stay in the top 10 and probably go with a defensive lineman or an edge rusher. But that second pick at 20, if there's a situation where we look at this Seahawks team and whether it's Keontae Johnston, whether it's, Jordan Addison, whether, it's JSN, one of these guys there, one of these top receivers that are still around for the Seahawks when they pick at 20, then you have my interest. I'm not interested in a top 5 pick of using a wide receiver there, but at 20, one of those top 3 guys are around, we can potentially talk about that. Josie writes, should we sign free agent Daron Payne? We talked about Daron Payne a lot here the last couple of weeks. He's not going to be cheap. I think the talent speaks for itself, and he's just now entering his prime. It'd be great to have him there when it comes to that talent level. All of that sounds good. But you might be in a situation where you're having to choose him or Geno Smith. I mean, I'm taking Geno personally if it comes down to making that choice. So there's going to be a lot of teams interested in Daron Payne. I'd like him, but I just don't know if the numbers add up to bring Payne in as far as that goes. Matthew wants to know, what are the best college football quarterbacks that could be drafted next year? Next year as in 2024. Rolly's going to like me mention this. Drake May is going to be right up there. I think he and Caleb Williams are 1A, 1B. I like Caleb Williams a little bit better, but that's why we play the games. Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy, but there could be a situation this year where if Drake May clearly outplays Caleb Williams, he could jump Caleb Williams and he could be the first quarterback taken. I think it's between those two. Then there's like a big opening, right? That's when things get very interesting. And the next guy I point to is Quinn Ewers at Texas. I know Quinn looked very raw, and there were times that he did not look great. I understand all that. But the size, the athleticism, everything's there for Quinn Ewers. If he can put it all together this upcoming year, and he's got Arch Manning on his neck trying to take that job, and he knows that Texas fans want Arch Manning, I think you could realistically see a situation where Williams and May go 1-2, whatever order you're feeling, depending on quarterback, depending on the team. And then that third quarterback could be Quinn Ewers, depending on how this year goes. Those are the 3 guys I'm watching for as far as that's concerned. I know some people are going to tell you Spencer Rattler. I think Rattler's a fraud personally. But those are the 3 guys I'm watching for. Before we go, name a player the Seahawks should add in free agency. Who comes to mind? Who's somebody the Seahawks should consider this offseason? Let us know in the comment section below, and we will see you next time here on Seahawks Today. All right, got a couple more shots to pay off here, courtesy of Mark Sanchez. 2 shots, uno mas. You don't have to tell me twice to take 2 shots. Let's see. What else is everybody saying in the chat right now? Nicholas been trying to tell me that the Seahawks need Anthony Richardson, and I'm just out on that. Rolly, what do you think of these draft quarterbacks as I pour this drink? Who do you like?
So tough. I think Bryce Young's QB1, even though he does have the size concerns.
Put yourself on screen.
I think he's just uber talented. He's a winner. So I like Bryce Young. I know he's smaller frame, and I know some people say You need big quarterbacks, athletic freaks, big, tall guys. Like you'll see Anthony Richardson, like you'll see Will Levis, like you'll see C.J. Stroud. But there's been successful short quarterbacks or smaller quarterbacks in the NFL recently. I know Drew Brees is a 101 with his size. Kyler Murray, he's good. I know y'all don't think he is, or he's injury prone, or whatever you want to say about him. He's still talented and still can lead a winning team, I think. But I think Bryce Young's 1. I'd put Stroud 2. I think the toss-up between Levis and Richardson. Both have flaws. Both are naturally gifted with talent, with the size, the frame, the arm. If you're just talking off arm talent and speed, those 2 are the most talented quarterbacks in the class. But it's the mental processing, it's the mechanics, it's the accuracy, which I would take Young, Stroud. I'd probably go chalk with Levis and Richardson. That's how I'd rank my top 4.
So my top 4, I have Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson is my top 4.
Yeah, that's what
same one we have.
Yeah, we agree.
Now, I'll say this much. I stated this previously, and I'll say again. And Rolly, I bet you would agree with me on this. When you look at the Seahawks, with where they're positioned 5-20, with the needs that they have, and the year that Geno Smith had this past season, if you can position yourself to potentially get Drake May or Caleb Williams next year, I like both those guys better than I do any quarterback in this class. Granted, this quarterback class is a lot better than last year's, but I like next year's even more. To me, I think in an ideal world, if you're Seattle, you trade down from 5, stockpile a pick for next year, in addition to the pick that you have next year as well. So you go in next year with 2 first-round picks, and you try to put yourself in a position of power to be able to get one of those 2 quarterbacks next year and bring back Geno this year.
Listen, I actually completely agree with that.
I know that's a lot of things have to go right, but that's, I think, what I would prefer.
I think if you polled the 32 GMs and asked them if you could take Drake May or Caleb Williams over the top 4 quarterbacks in this class, I think all 32 GMs would say they would. I'm going to just be honest with you.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams and Drake May are better prospects than the 4 quarterbacks that are projected to go top 10 as we currently speak. So I think the demand for those 2 next year are going to be really high. You heard Tyler mention during the cut that I'm going to like hearing Drake May because I'm a North Carolina guy, but Drake May's arm talent, his size, his frame, he was a redshirt freshman last year, and he was dotting up people in the ACC.
And Mark brings up a good point, too. Another guy that's going to be in that fold, Michael Penix Jr., could have come out this year, probably would have been more than likely a day 3 guy, but he's got a chance to really elevate his stock, too.
I think Penix, if he has another year like he did this year, he'll probably go day 2 next year. I don't think he's going to go in the first round just because talent.
Right.
2, he's going to be an older prospect like Hendon Hooker in that range. This is going to be his, 5th year in college?
Right.
So he's going to be old prospect. Penix Jr. is solid, good QB, puts up great numbers at Washington, but I think he'll be more day 2 if things go right for him.
Well, and what we're seeing, too, what the NFL is doing, which is similar to the NBA's direction, is the NBA is the NFL is valuing your youth more than they ever have before. I mean, Brandon Weeden, if let's say everything's the same with him coming out, forget about how bad his NFL career went, but let's just say that he's the same prospect now that he was when he came out, however long that was when he was like 28, 29 years old. Brandon Weeden in today's NFL would be at best a 3rd-round pick.
I think he would be 5th, 6th round. I mean, drafting someone age 28, 29.
That's just not happening anymore.
Listen, Weeden had an unbelievable college career and was a 1st-round pick.
Right.
It would have been a 2nd-round pick at worst by any team. But
at that time.
Yeah, the fact that a player is getting drafted at 28, 29 should be illegal. I mean, 4 years in, his rookie deal's up. He's 33. You're asking yourself, is he cooked? Quarterback's the only position where 33 years old isn't cooked. That's borderline still prime for quarterbacks.
Right. The game's changed. It's not the way that it was years ago. I mean, I know this is a hot button topic in this office. Stetson Bennett And I know that I see comments on both channels I manage here all the time asking about Stetson Bennett because he won 2 national titles. I mean, not even forgetting that Stetson Bennett is not even really that talented, to be honest, but just the age factor alone. No. I mean, besides that Stetson Bennett is not that good to begin with, I mean, at 26, who wants a 26-year-old quarterback? No thanks. Mark says Whedon was good because of Dez and Blackman. Not wrong. He had incredible talent there at Oklahoma State. That team in 2011 at Oklahoma State, they were robbed of playing in the national title. Alabama got in instead of them. Should have been Oklahoma State and LSU that year. But, yeah, I mean, it was certainly one of the loaded teams. They beat Andrew Luck and Stanford in the Fiesta Bowl that year. So, next segment, we're going to talk defensive free agent targets here on the show. We are at $60 in Super Chats right now. Mark is in the $40 range. He's about 60 himself away from another spot on Das Boots. We are collectively about $90 away from taking down a boot. So that's the status of the boots here on the show. But Mark asks, smoked ribs or pulled pork? Rolly, I got to go smoked ribs here.
Okay, so
you can never go wrong with ribs. Pulled pork's not bad, don't get me wrong, but ribs, that's where it's at for me.
Which one do I enjoy more? Ribs. Which one is more?
Good answer. Good answer.
I enjoy ribs more. But what do I eat more? It's pulled pork just because I think it's easier, it's more clean, and you can get pulled pork sandwiches. So I think it's just able to eat it easier and more often than ribs. Because when you're smoking ribs, you kind of have to prepare for that. Because you're going to get messy, going to take some time, so you got to prepare for the ribs. Pulled pork can more of a give a go situation.
Georgie says, how can you say Bennett is not talented? I'll say this. You know what he is talented at? He is very talented at getting a public intox arrest at 4 a.m. in Dallas, Texas, knocking on people's doors in the middle of the night. That's where he's very talented at. I'll give him credit for that. But that's enough Stetson Bennett talk for today. Coming up next, defensive free agent targets for the Seahawks. Who could they potentially add this offseason? Let's tell you about that right now here on the show. Rolly, we all set? We good to go? All right, here we go. Let's get after it. It is Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about potential defensive free agent targets for your Seattle Seahawks. I have 3 names specifically that we'll get to here in just a bit. Before we do, though, here's what I want to know to begin the show today. Give me a defensive player that is going to be a free agent that you think Seattle should sign. We know this defense needs help. Who comes to mind? And if you need a minute to go over and look at what free agents are going to be available, that's fine. But just get in that comment section. Tell me who you think the Seahawks should consider. Defense. We're going to break down 3 potential free agent defensive targets to help the Seahawks defense. Look, this year for this Seahawks team, it was a year where the offense was having to outscore teams, and they were not getting much help on the defensive side of the ball at times, in particular stopping the run. And what you need, what we've heard from John Schneider, is they want to build a champion caliber roster, right? They want to compete for the Super Bowl next year. Well, you might not have rookies be available for that to compete right away. So who are some guys that they could potentially look to on the free agent market? Well, Michael Bumpus, former Seahawks receiver, does radio in Seattle. He put a list together of 3 names. I want to go over these names, show you what Michael had to say about these 3. Let's start with Tremaine Edmunds, the linebacker from the Buffalo Bills. And I got to tell you, Edmunds is going to be, I think, a sneaky value potentially for what he brings to the table. And at the middle linebacker position, remember, the Seahawks are likely going to be without Jordan Brooks for most of next year with the injury he suffered to his ACL late this past season. And you're looking at a guy that has been a 2-time Pro Bowler, This past year wasn't his best season by any means. 13 games played, 66 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 interception. But of those guys out there for that position, for the middle linebacker spot, Tremaine Edmunds could be as good as it gets potentially of who the Seahawks could find for this position. Here's what Michael had to say in particular about Edmunds and the idea of bringing him to Seattle. I love this dude over there in Buffalo. He's great against the run. He plays downhill. You want violence in a football player. You look at the film on Edmunds, and you're going to see that. He had 66 solo tackles, 1 interception. He's valued at $12 million. Now, here's the thing for me. The $12 million, that's all you're looking at potentially spending? We know that the Seahawks are in a position where you still have to pay Geno Smith and some of these other guys. But I can go get my starting middle linebacker, a quality player that's a 2-time Pro Bowler for $12 million. I like that idea. What would you do? Shout out John Quinones from What Would You Do on ABC News. Should the Seahawks sign Tremaine Edmunds? You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Type Y for yes, in for no. If you think the Seahawks should or should not sign Tremaine Edmunds, let me know in the comments section. Another name that we have not talked about on the channel that's new to this is Dre'Mont Jones, the defensive lineman from the Denver Broncos. And I tell you this, a little spoiler alert for these 3 positions I'm looking at today. It's all about the defensive line and about the linebackers, that front 7, those front 7 guys. And Dre'Mont Jones would fill a big need with this Seahawks team that struggled so much to stop the run. You're looking at a guy that not only can stop the run, but he can get to the quarterback too. In the last 3 seasons, this is pretty impressive. You talk about consistency of what Dre'Mont Jones has brought to the table. Every year for the last 3 years, Dre'Mont Jones has had 6.5 sacks, 10 QB hits, and 7 tackles for loss. Last year, 13 games played, had 47 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, former first-round pick out of the Ohio State. Dre'Mont Jones, I got to tell you, another guy, you play him in right away. This one makes sense as far as that goes. Let's hear what Michael had to say about Dre'Mont Jones as well. He had a 15.9% pass rush win rate. That's number 6 in the league. He's 26 years old. He's probably only going to be around $4 million. If you want to go on the cheaper end for a guy who produces, that's the guy you look at. $4 million? $4 million for a player of that caliber. That would be an immediate improvement for this Seattle Seahawks team. That's money well spent. That is a good bargain buy, my friends. Yes, do it. Do it, Seattle. Make this work. Of all the players today, this is the one that I could see being the most likely with the price at $4 million potentially. What do you guys think? Sign Dre'Mont Jones? Type S for sign. Type P for pass. Let me know in the comment section. You like the idea of bringing Dre'Mont Jones to the Seattle Seahawks? To me, this one is very intriguing. Let me know in the comment section. S for sign, P for pass on Dre'Mont Jones. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code Seahawks125, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus. Put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free. My guy Mark Sanchez, he was asking me if for Super Bowl Sunday, if he should be eating pizza or barbecue. And I got to tell you, with BetUS, with their deposit bonus they're offering, it's like buying a pizza and then getting an extra pizza and a couple slices for free. So, Mark, you can get your pizza paid for by our friends at BetUS, essentially. It's a great deal. You can bet on the Super Bowl here in a couple weeks, college basketball, my Jayhawks starting to put it together. That 3-game losing streak wasn't fun, but, hey, things are turning around in Lawrence, Kansas, hopefully so. NBA action, whatever you're feeling. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Seahawks125 for your 125% deposit bonus. Last but not least, Daron Payne. And we held him for last because we've talked about him more than the other 2 on this channel. And you guys know the deal that we're big Daron Payne fans here on Seahawks Today. And a young guy was picked in 2018 out of the first round, and he is coming off a career year, the best of his entire time in the NFL so far to this point. Last year, a Pro Bowl selection. Granted, I know Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl, but for Daron Payne, still a big deal nonetheless. You can see him play dodgeball this weekend. He earned the opportunity to get to play dodgeball with some of the best players in the NFL because he played all 17 games, had 32 tackles, 11 and a half sacks. Huge jump for Daron Payne compared to what he did in the years prior. Also had a safety and had a fumble recovery this year. A career year for Daron Payne. The Commanders were a mess at times this year, but Daron Payne was a point of consistency there for the Commanders. Here's more from MB. He said he had 11 and a half sacks. He's 6'3", 320 pounds. And this guy can move, and he's powerful at the same time. He had a 12.7% pass rush win rate. That is 12th in the league. He's probably going to be valued around $14 million. You want to spend some money on a guy in the box, you go and get him. Now, the $14 million for him is interesting because, like we talked about with Geno, that you might have to choose between him and Daron Payne potentially. And, that could be a problem. You could probably say the same thing about Tremaine Edmunds for that matter, too. So is there enough money to go around? But all three of these guys, all of them, would be a massive upgrade for this Seahawks team as far as I'm concerned. If you got Edmunds, Jones, or Payne, it's unlikely you can get all three. But if you could get one or two out of the three, this defense, and we know John Schneider wants to get this team to a championship level. If you want to talk about championships, if you want to take this team to the next step, any of these three guys would help this team out a whole lot as far as I'm concerned. So before we get out of here today, folks, let me ask you this. If you can only sign one, and all things considered, I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit here and say if all things were equal, because all things are never equal. Okay, let's be real here. If you can only pick one to sign between these three, who are you going with? Dre'Mont Jones, Daron Payne, Tremaine Edmunds. If you're going with Dre'Mont Jones, type DJ. If you're going with Daron Payne, type DP. If you're going with Tremaine Edmunds, type TE. Let us know in the comment section below. And if either one of them sign, we're going to cover it here on the channel. Non-stop Seahawks coverage. It never ends here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. We'll see you next time here on Seahawks Today. All right. All right, guys. What do we think? Name a player the Seahawks should sign in free agency this year. What did you think of those? What did you guys think of those options potentially for Seattle? Let's see. I think Daron Payne is the consensus from the chat, it would seem. Rolly, what do you think about those options?
I think Daron Payne is that dude. And I actually did some more deep diving into Dre'Mont Jones earlier today and late last night, and he's a stud. Like, our boy Michael Bumpus, I don't think he's got the numbers right on Dre'Mont Jones. $4 million a year for that talent, for that production? No. I think it's going to be closer to 10.
Yeah? If it's 4, that's a steal.
I think the way he's performed on the open market, him getting 3 for 30, 4 for 40, if you want to get out there, I think that's very likely.
Yeah, I could see that. We had a couple super chats, Nicholas and Mark, to pay off here that came in during that segment. Nicholas, checking in, says, we should trade down at 5 with the Colts or Panthers. We need more picks next year so we can draft one of these quarterbacks next year. Nicholas is agreeing what Rolly and I are talking about of our idea of stockpiling picks, loading up on defense this year, and then finding that elite quarterback next year because we both like those quarterbacks as far as next year goes. We said the next $5 super chat, Rolly would attempt to sing the DK song. Rolly, it's all you whenever you're ready.
It's only me?
It's all you. I mean, I'll sing along in the background.
I need help. I don't even remember. So, hold on. Ready? I'll go slow.
All right.
It starts chomping.
Carroll's chomping. Geno passes. No one's stopping. DK. Touchdowns all day. He rules.
Okay.
Okay, you got to figure it out. This is a good warm-up because we got to do it again for Mark after we answer what Mark has to say.
Both will be on the mailbag, by the way.
We'll get these in the mailbag. Would you trade for Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, Shaq Thompson, or Josh Allen Jags? I like that he made the point of Josh Allen from the Jags. As far as that goes, would I trade for any of those guys? I would be interested, but Rolly, I don't think the price tag is going to be very cheap for any of those.
So Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa are going to be very expensive, and I think Josh Allen would require a first as well. Shaq Thompson, I think you could get for maybe a day 2 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an off-ball linebacker, so he's not going to go that crazy. Roquan Smith, what did he go for? Early second, right?
Second and a fifth.
Shaq Thompson will be cheaper than that, just because Roquan's like top 2 at his position. Shaq Thompson is not.
Maybe a third and 6, maybe?
Maybe. I could see that going for Shaq. Myles Garrett, you'd have to send multiple first-round picks. So, honestly, if you sent the 5th and 20th overall pick for Myles Garrett, I don't even know if they'd accept.
Well, and I'll say this. I'll dive into this more when we get to the mailbag portion. But, and by the way, send some mailbag questions, #Seahawks or Super Chat. We'll get you on our next mailbag here in just a second. But I think the thing that you can say about at least 3 of these guys, maybe Shaq Thompson too, more than likely the player that you would select with said pick you would give up is probably not going to be as good as Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, or Josh Allen. It might not be as good as Shaq Thompson potentially. So that's something you have to factor in. But then the money aspect too, you still got to pay Geno Smith. To me, I think that kind of is the first absolute thing you have to do with the offseason is you have to figure out what's the Geno money going to be, and then you can do everything else from there.
I mean, I'll give my 2 cents here before we go to the mailbag, and Tyler goes more in depth on this question. But Myles Garrett would be a home run. If you're the Seahawks, if you think you're that close to winning, I mean, you made the playoffs this year. If you think an elite pass rusher gets you over the top, then I would trade the first 2 picks you guys have this year, 5 and 20, for Myles Garrett. Joey Bosa, because of his injury history, the Chargers might just accept the 20th pick and maybe a 4th rounder. Josh Allen, probably the 20th pick and a 3rd rounder, same value as Joey Bosa, and we already talked about Shaq Thompson. Right. But I think the more realistic option there, which I don't think any of them are in the trade markets, because if you look at least Shaq Thompson, no, but Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, and Josh Allen are all on teams that are hopeful of winning next year. The Jags, the Chargers, and the Browns.
Yeah.
So those teams are going to want to hold on to them and make a playoff push. They're not looking to sell. Shaq Thompson, like I said, probably. You might be able to get him, but the other 3, I think they're holding on to them unless you blow them away with an offer and overpay what they're worth.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Final segment. Let's show the Super Chat menu one more time here. This is what we're offering today, folks. We are at $70 in Super Chats, so we were 8 away from Das Boot. Mark Sanchez is at about $50, I believe, total. And so he's 50 away from a spot on Das Boot, the Boot Hall of Fame. We can induct you in the Boot Hall of Fame for $100 a piece. But 80 away collectively from taking down a boot. $10, we take down a shot. $5, we can sing the DK song. By the end of the day, Rolly is going to know every word to the DK song. $2, ask us anything. Any Super Chat equals a shout-out. By the way, we answered that question. Did we sing for Mark?
We did not, so we do have to sing.
Let's try again. Let's see if Rolly's learned the words this time.
I think I get the beginning. The middle part with Geno, I have no clue.
All right, you start, and then if you need some help, I'll jump in.
How about this? Ready? I'll start with the chompin' Carol, and then I'll baton it to you, and you finish.
Okay, a little handoff.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Chompin', Carol's chompin'.
Geno passes, no one stopping. DK. Touchdowns all day. He rules.
Boom. There we go.
There we go. Sajin, thanks for joining us, man. What up, 12? It's good to see everybody here. We're on a little bit early today. Here in Dallas, Rolly can attest to this, too. We've had a crazy ice storm I know that you people in Seattle are very familiar when it comes weather-wise, but the folks of Dallas do not know how to treat roads around here, and so we are trying to get home by a decent time today before it gets dark and try to avoid driving on ice as much as we can. So that's why we're on the air early. Next week we'll be back on normal time.
I'm from New York, so I'm used to ice and snow, but the fact they don't salt or plow at all is pretty funny.
Rolly's ready to start a business for this here in town.
I'm ready. I mean, unfortunately, I'd have to quit my day job here at Chat Sports, but I'd have to go make a new salt and plowing company down here. Now, listen, it only comes about 1 month a year between mid-January and maybe to the end of February. That's the only time ice and snow come. But those 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I'll be making cha-ching.
Cha-ching. All right. Final segment, mailbag time. Hashtag Seahawks Super Chat to get on the mailbag show. Rolly, we'll roll through these questions pretty fast. Let's try to keep it like under 12 if we can. And we'll go from there. Guys, mailbag time. Hashtag Seahawks or a Super Chat to get on the mailbag. If you got a question for me, you got a question for Rolly, too. We can get Rolly out of the mailbag. I know we've had questions for Chugs the last couple of weeks. So whatever you guys have, we'll answer them here on our mailbag segment that's coming up next. We all good to go? All right, here we go. You have questions, I have answers. Folks, you are in good luck because it is mailbag time here on Seahawks Today. And you may be wondering, well, how do I get involved in these mailbags, subscribe to the channel and all that? Well, you got to subscribe and then join us for our live shows. But here's what you really ought to do. You should turn on notifications as well. Open up your phone, go to your settings app, scroll down, tap YouTube, tap notifications, turn on allow notifications, and you will be the first to know anytime we go live. Our live show on Wednesday, we had to go live a little bit early, and people that had notifications turned on, they knew that. So turn on notifications, and you'll never miss a moment here on Seahawks Today. First question comes from Nicholas. We should trade down at 5 with the Colts or Panthers. We need more picks next year so we can draft one of these quarterbacks next year. Nicholas, great question. Rolly and I were talking about this earlier, that you look at next year's quarterbacks. The top two for sure, Caleb Williams and Drake May, are better than any of the quarterbacks in this year's class. And this year's class is a lot better than last year's class, but next year is going to be even better as far as I'm concerned there. And so in a perfect world, but, I mean, this is everything would have to go right for this to happen. In a perfect world, I think you trade back from the number 5 position, as Nicholas is talking about here, for a team that needs a quarterback, stockpile pick for next year, still pick at like 8 or 9 or whatever that is, and then next year, potentially, if you have to, package your 2 first-round picks because you still have your own, and then go get a Caleb Williams or a Drake May potentially. That'd be great, but a lot of stuff would have to go right in order for that to work. A lot of dominoes have to fall your direction. Mark Sanchez, the one and only, writes in, would you trade for Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, Shaq Thompson, or Josh Allen from the Jags? Not Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback. So Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, and Josh Allen are going to come with a hefty price with what they bring to the table. All 4 of these are very good players, by the way. And all 4 of them would be an improvement for the Seahawks defense. When I look at with Garrett, Bosa, and Allen, the price tag might be a little bit too high as far as what those teams would demand and also what you have to pay those guys. The one that's interesting is Shaq Thompson, though, because you look at the market for off-ball linebackers. Remember, Roquan Smith, who was a steal of a trade for Baltimore. They gave up, what, like a 2nd and a 5th? Shaq Thompson met, what, maybe a 3rd and the 6th potentially? To me, that's the one that's intriguing, where it doesn't break your bank too much to bring in Shaq Thompson as opposed to the other 3 potentially. But the Seahawks do need all the help they can get on the defense. All of them would certainly be welcome in Seattle as far as I'm concerned. Gary the Snail writes in, will Jamal Adams be back next year? It's a very good question, Gary the Snail. I'll say this. Jamal Adams, I think that the way things work out for this Seahawks team, okay, Jamal Adams is in a position with the way his contract is structured where, as frustrating as he may be for the Seahawks for the lack of time he's been on the field, and I understand, trust me, I understand why you may be upset, Seahawks fans. I get it, totally. Don't get me wrong on that. It doesn't make sense to move on from him. It doesn't make sense to cut him. You're not going to get much in trade for him. You're still best off bringing him back. Now, it could be a different role. You could play him at linebacker potentially and go with another guy at safety, a Ryan Neal or a Josh Jones or something like that, but it just doesn't make sense of what, if you cut him, of what you have to pay him and still what he counts against the cap and all that. I think it still makes sense to bring back Jamal Adams next year, believe it or not. Is it time to move on from Jamal Adams? What say you? Be honest with me. You can get real in that comment section. If you hate Jamal Adams, you want to see the Seahawks move on, that's fine. Let me know. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Y for yes, in for no. Is it time for Seattle to move on from Jamal Adams? Jose writes with a $2 super chat. Franchise tag Geno, trade 5th pick. I don't like the idea of franchise tagging Geno. If you have to, I understand. But in a perfect world, you get Geno on a 2 or 3 year deal, somewhere between 50 to 65% guaranteed. Trading the number 5 pick, that sounds nice if you can still get another first-round pick this year. If you're moving back, let's say, from 5 to 9, and then have a pick next year that you get in the trade as well, to me, that makes sense. But if you're just going to lose that pick and not have another first-round pick you gain this year, then I'm kind of out on that, if that makes sense. Cookie Monster writes, if it comes down to Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, who do you prefer? I love both defensive players, by the way. Both of them stars in the SEC. Will Anderson at Alabama, Jalen Carter at Georgia, just outstanding football players. And I think anyone that drafts either one of these two guys, they are going to be lucky to have either guy personally. The Seahawks probably would need Jalen Carter more, but I think Will Anderson is the better player, if that makes sense. But it's not a huge talent gap. And so I'll put it this way. Where the Seahawks are at 5, you would take either one if one of them slides to you. And I saw a mock from The Athletic that had Will Anderson going to Seattle at 5 this week, which I just loved seeing that, by the way. I'm sure you guys felt the same way, too. I prefer Will Anderson, but with where the Seahawks are positioned at 5, you're lucky if either one of them's still there. You'd take either one as far as that concerns. But I prefer Will, but it's not like there's a wrong answer, if that makes sense. Pick 1 to draft, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. If you were John Schneider and both guys are on the board and you can take either one, who are you going with? Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. Type WA for Will Anderson. Type JC for Jalen Carter. Let me know in the comments section. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code Seahawks125, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus. Put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free at chatsports.com/bet. You can bet on the Super Bowl. You can also bet on some college basketball, NBA, and more. Whatever you're feeling, get your bets in today. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Seahawks125. $2 super chat. Is there enough salt from the Cowboys loss? Isn't there enough salt? So, in case you missed on our live show, we went on a little early this week because of some weather there in Dallas. And me and Rolly, we were talking about how in Dallas they haven't put salt on the roads. And it has been a pain to try to drive around here. And I love that we can make a Dallas Cowboys joke, that we can find a way to sneak that in here on today's show of the salt being from the Cowboys loss. Because how about them Cowboys, right? I'm so glad the Cowboys did not go very far in this postseason. Even though the Seahawks aren't around, the Cowboys losing still feels pretty good. So, with that said, yeah, maybe it is. You may got a good point there, Taker. JVB says, do you get Lamar Jackson or CJ? Lamar Jackson is a very interesting one because not only does Lamar, or if he gets traded, have to be paid a lot of money. Well, he'd have to get paid a lot of money if he stays in Baltimore anyway. That's beside the point. Lamar is going to be owed a lot of money wherever he goes. And all the draft capital, if he is going to be traded, it is going to be a haul of what it's going to take, somewhere around the Russell Wilson range from last year. Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud, you have to use the number 5 pick. I would personally, if you're making me choose between the two situations, I would go with the younger quarterback and C.J. Stroud and not have to pay Lamar Jackson, give up all that draft capital. I would take the chance on the quarterback on the rookie contract. Remember, the last Super Bowl the Seahawks had was Russell Wilson on the rookie contract and building the team around him. And we've seen over time the best recipe to win a Super Bowl is when your quarterback is on the rookie contract. That is precious time that you can't get back. So, JVB, if you made me choose in those circumstances, I'm going C.J. Stroud. Mr. Biggs, who I've been told is related to DK Metcalf. Don't know if I buy that one. We need a D-line early in the draft, not a running back quarterback like everyone's saying. Hey, I hear you. Definitely need help on the defensive line. If the Seahawks could have figured out how to stop the run, they very well might have won the NFC West this year. In actuality, that defensive line issues were just brutal for this team. They're going to need some help. They're going to need some defensive line help, and they'll find it here in this draft. Still flying. Will Sean Payton fix Russ in Denver? I look at that situation. I lean towards no, but if anybody can, it's Sean Payton, as far as I'm concerned. Sean Payton's got the best shot to fix Russell Wilson of anybody out there. Remember, he worked with Drew Brees, who, of course, was at a similar stature to Russell Wilson. He had been through his ups and downs when he was with the Chargers before coming to New Orleans. So it seems like a good fit for Russ to be playing with Sean Payton there, but we'll see how it plays out. I lean towards no, but we'll see what happens there. I'm very curious, before we wrap up here, for all you guys watching, are you rooting on Russ? Now that the Seahawks aren't playing the Broncos, we were all waiting for that first game last year when they wrote off Geno, but he didn't write back, and when he beat Russell Wilson, that was a great moment and everything. Are you rooting on Russ? What do you think of him in Denver? Is he cooked or is he not cooked? A little play on words there for you. What do you think about Russ's situation? Is he done for? Is he washed? Let me know in the comment section. Type C for cooked, type NC for not cooked as far as what you think of Russell Wilson goes there in Denver. And are you rooting for him or not? I'm very curious. Now that they're not playing each other, are you rooting for the former Seahawks quarterback? Let me know in the comments section. Nonstop Seahawks coverage each and every day here on the channel. We're talking about your Seattle Seahawks. We are also touching on the days counting down to the draft, trades, free agency. We do live shows every week. This is the place to be. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe for free. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Never miss a moment. All right, we are through all our segments now. What do you guys think? Is it time to move on from Jamal Adams? Let's go back to Jamal Adams. I know I'm seeing some comments about Russ, as I figured as much. But what do you guys think? Is it time to move on from Jamal Adams? Rolly, I understand why people would want to move on from Jamal Adams, but the math just doesn't make sense, I don't think.
Nah, I think you hold on to him. But I will say that turned out to be one bad trade for the Seahawks.
Oh, that was one of the worst trades of all time. No doubt.
He was good in New York. Obviously, they had their differences. Send 2 firsts. Oof. Luckily, the Seahawks counteracted it by the Russell Wilson trade.
Right.
Because obviously he was bad in Denver, and they grabbed a couple first-round picks. They got a couple seconds too, right, Tyler?
Yes.
Yeah, so they got 2 firsts, 2 seconds. It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Pretty good deal.
It is. All right, let's throw the shot clock on. So we are at $74 in Super Chats right now. We're a little over halfway to the boot. About $76 we need to the boot. Mark is about $50 away from another spot in the Boot Hall of Fame. That's where we're at right now. $10 to take a shot. $5 to sing the DK song. $2 you can ask us anything. Any super chat equals a shout out. 1 minute on the clock. If we get a super chat, I'll put this at. I'm going to make this very interesting. 1 minute on the clock. We get a super chat of $20 or more. We'll stay on, keep the show going. If not, we sign off, we call it a day, and Rolly and I go home and try to avoid the ice and everything here in Dallas.
It's supposed to be bad again tomorrow, so damn. Oh, it's cold.
And here we are, still coming into work. Can't say that about everybody in the office, but
we're grinders.
We're grinders. We do what we can. So 1 minute on the clock, we get a super chat of $20 or more. We'll keep the show going. We'll see if we can work our way to Dust Boot. If not, we sign off, we call it a day. So, up to you guys. 30 seconds to go. Next week, back at normal time, assuming everything's fine weather-wise. Then we'll be with you at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
I'll have to assume Chugs will be replacing me, the one-time shoe-in, Rolly.
You know, you're welcome back here anytime, Rolly.
I appreciate that.
People were asking where Chugs is. Chugs, the weather held him out today.
Yeah, he has a long drive.
He lives a ways from the office, so. But Chugs should be back next week. Rolly, always a good time with you, man. He was with us on a couple watch parties this year, and
game
we
against the
enjoyed
Cardinals.
ourselves.
Oh!
Reflect the Sun with a $20 super chat says, "Grinders, stay safe, guys." All right, so that's a couple shots. Shot clock resets. 2 shots. Reflect the Sun, calling us grinders. I like that. You know, we grind. We work hard. We play hard.
Party hard, too.
Party hard. Yes. Maybe not that type, but yes. Thank you, Reflect the Sun, for that $20 super chat. And Reflect the Sun Reflect the Sun, let me know what your total is. How close is Reflect the Sun to Das Boot with that? I think, what does that make, like $75 away?
On today's show?
On today's show. I think Reflect the Sun had a $5 super chat earlier. Cheers.
Yeah, so he's 75 away.
All right, so Reflect the Sun, I got 2 shots. You are 75 away from owning a spot in the Boot Hall of Fame. Collectively now, we are $56 away from Das Boot. Cheers. Let's do it again. 1 minute, $20 or more. We're going big today. Oh, man. Those shots made me feel good. I'm going to feel better looking at that ice after having a couple shots. I'll be nice and warm.
I don't know if you want to say that.
I'll be nice and warm with that whiskey in hand. Tennessee whiskey. Oh, yeah. All right, so 1 minute on the clock. $20 we stay on. Otherwise, we sign off here and call it a day. Let's see. Is there a fight going on between Sijin and Nicholas in the chat? Or are you guys fine?
I think they're just having a healthy debate. It looks like about Russell Wilson.
Oh, imagine that. Oh, that's funny. 10 seconds. Super chat at 20 or more. We stay live. Otherwise, we sign off and we'll call it a night and try to get home and make sure everything's okay. Try to get home safely tonight. And we'll see you back here next week. Subscribe to the channel. As always, we certainly appreciate when you guys subscribe. We can't do this without you. And looks like the clock's running out. I'll give it a minute to make sure YouTube processes because sometimes YouTube takes a minute. We had that problem a couple weeks ago. So I'll let the YouTube process, but if I don't see anything else, I think we're going to sign off and call it a day. Rolly, thanks for stepping in, my guy.
Anytime. Salute to you, Seahawks fans.
Yes. Nicholas says, we having a conversation about dumpster fire Wilson. Everything is fine, Tyler. Okay. So I'm glad Sijin and Nicholas everything's good. No fighting going on between those two. All right. We will sign off. I didn't see anything come through. We will see you next week. More videos coming out over the next couple days. And stay plugged away to the channel. That's Nicholas Roloff. I'm Tyler Jones. Chugsy, he'll be back next week. Have a great night, everybody. And if you missed any of today's show, you can go back and watch the